All right, I think we can get started. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming today. If you are here to learn more about AI and how it's used for scams, you're in the right place. So my name is Alex Wong. We'll do a quick introduction in a little bit. And for those who are Asian, today is the Lunar New Year, so Happy New Year. So a quick overview about who we are, and I'll introduce Gary in a minute. Both Gary and I are co-presenting. Sure. Is this better? Awesome. So Gary and I will introduce ourselves in a little bit, but first I'll provide an introduction on who I am and who My Care Community is. So I'm a co-founder at My Care Community. I established a company about a year and a half ago. The reason why I set up the company was I went through the process of taking care of my mom, and when she got sick and coming out of the hospital, I realized I didn't know anything about aging care and how to support her. Unfortunately, the usual method that we turned to, Google, wasn't a really good resource. So my partners and I co-founded My Care Community as an information-based resource for a family. We're free. We have a geriatric care physician, nurses, and other practitioners who are part of the team. And if you check out our website, mycarecommunity.net, we basically provide a lot of blogs and information that you can use to learn more about different topics related to aging care. So that's who I am, and I'd like to turn the mic over to Gary to introduce himself.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Gary Shulman. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. I think being a financial advisor is a little bit somewhat more self-explanatory than something new to you like My Care Community. But I work with families and business owners on their financial needs, their wants, and their wishes. What we focus on is understanding what our clients' needs are and then helping them achieve their financial goals. So I'm located right down the street in front of Cafe Nero here in Wellesley. Been a Natick resident for 24 years, so I've been in this area pretty much my whole life. And that's about it about me for now.
So this session today is meant to be very interactive. So at any point in time, if you have questions related to what we're presenting, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question, and we'll talk through them. So first of all, I'd like to sort of introduce the definition of a scam. What is it, right? Many of you probably know what a scam is, but by definition, it's any action that someone takes without your really authorized approval, where they're getting your information, they're getting access to your account, or something that's of value to you. Essentially, that is a scam. A scam can happen in a few ways, right? It can be done, mostly when we think of scams, we think of people we don't know. But scams can also happen by people that you do know as well. And so how big is this problem? It's actually a fairly big problem. The IRS and AARP estimate the size of senior scams at about 25 to 35 billion a year. Why is that? It's because as seniors, you are a great audience for this type of activity. You work all your life, you build a nest egg, you have a very big asset for them to go after. You tend to be less technically up to date with where things are today. And also, a lot of seniors are much more open to engaging in dialogue than other folks are. You have a little bit more time, right? Because of those characteristics, seniors are typically, very good targets for scammers. And the other sort of statistics that's out there is that of the scams that are out there, about 75 or 72% of them are actually happening because it's someone that you know that's actually creating that scam. And we'll talk about the different methods today. Does anyone know who this is? No. Yes.
Terrible cold, and the connection here is awful. Grandma, I'm in a real mess. I'm I'm at the airport in Mexico and my wallet was stolen. My phone is almost dead. Can you help send some money so that I can get back home?
So this is what's called deepfake AI-generated video. I didn't try to make it too sophisticated. Actually, you follow the instructions here, you can actually recreate this video in about a minute, and it's all free. So what are deepfakes? And we'll talk a little more about them. Deepfakes are essentially, to create them, all you need is an image of someone you know. It could be yourself, a celebrity, whomever it is, and you can grab a lot of those images from the web these days. You can grab them from people's social media accounts. If it's a celebrity, their photos are everywhere. And then the other thing that you can do to create a deepfake is if they have presented before, like this presentation, you now have a copy of my voice and Gary's voice. Once you have our voice, you can upload that voice audio with the photo, type in the script, and the AI will essentially create whatever video you want that looks like us, sounds like us, but saying something that you want it to say. That's a deepfake video. Like I said, it took me all of 1 minute, nothing spent to create this video. So if nothing else today, if you're adventurous, you can follow the instruction on that last slide and go play with AI and create your own video. Any question? So what is AI? So an AI is essentially any computer program that mimics an activity that a human does. There are two forms of AI today, and I'll explain what they are and how they work. One is what's called large language models. Those are, ChatGPT. If you use Gemini, you use, Microsoft's AI tool. They're all the same. What they do is they take data from the web, data from all the different sources that are out there. They learn from that, and then through facilitators that coach the AI, what's right and what's not, essentially the model begins to have capabilities that humans have. As an example, I use AI quite often. Not all of AI is bad. Some of AI is actually very good. One thing that AI does really well is if I type in a document that I'm writing, I can ask AI to check my grammar, check my spelling, make it sound better, and AI will do that in a matter of seconds. That's a very good use of AI. I've also used AI to, I can grab some sample writing from an author. So if I go and grab, writing from a famous researcher and I say, make this document sound like so-and-so, the AI will actually rewrite my writing and make it sound like it's coming from that person with that person's tone. So AI does a lot of really good things. It learns from all the data that it has, and it creates something that you want to create. That's large language models, AI. The other example are what's called agentic AI. Think of these as chatbots. How many people have called into customer support, or you're going to a website, you want to talk to a human, but you actually end up on a phone going through, talking to some robot on the phone or on the web? A lot of those are powered by agentic AI today. They basically mimic some process that a programmer wants it to support, and they make that process repeatable and easy to use, right? So that's agentic AI, and I'll talk about why that matters. So, going back in time, right, 10, 15 years ago, if you look at AI and, you get a lot of these texts from scammers, usually you can tell when they're coming from a scammer. Most of the scams are coming from people who are international. I remember those days when, I just won the lottery, some prince in some third world country is going to send me some amazing reward if I can help him out quickly, right? Usually those texts or email messages are, you see some grammar mistakes, some typos. I'm Chinese, and a lot of times I make fun of the fact that, some of the text coming from Chinese products have some typo on them, so they're not the real thing. So they're easy to see when something isn't real, right? You can spot it. It feels different. Because of AI now, scammers have tools that erase that ability for you to differentiate. So they can go in, do what I do, which is type in an email or some text, ask AI to say, make this sound, like an American. Make it sound like it's someone from Texas, right? And the AI will create that text that they send out. Because it's so easy, it's much more prevalent, and it's harder for you to catch them. Now, in the past, going back 10, 15 years ago as well, when people try to scam you, they're typing in your phone number or they're calling you, right? That's a lot of work. That's expensive. With agentic AI, you can now have robots that essentially try to call you, try to text you, and they can do that as often as they want. They can reach out to thousands of people in the next second at no cost to them. So because of how easy these tools are to use, it's very efficient for scammers to do what they do today. Any questions so far? So what are the different forms of AI out there? We talk about voice cloning. As I shown earlier with the deepfake video, you can take someone's voice and actually create a mirror image of their voice and then say things in their tone. We've seen deepfake videos, AI chatbots. So scammers can now set up chatbots that sounds like a human, but it's actually a robot. Fake websites. Some scammers can create websites that are just a slight misspelling on a legitimate site. So if you type in, and this is an example, it's not for real, right? So if for some reason Walmart.co instead of .com is available and a scammer has access to that, they can create a site that looks exactly like Walmart's website. When you go in and type in your credit card information, you may not realize that you're not sending it to a legitimate site. Right, so that's a fake website. Romance scams, this is something that's happening more with AI now. People by nature can be lonely, and if they find someone that they think is real talking to them, they're going to engage. Some of them are for companionship. Others are set up to feel like a romantic partner. Phishing attack is what we've seen in the past. It's just a lot easier to do that. And then investment scams. A lot more opportunities to make some amazing returns if you just turn over your money quickly.
Just want to give two examples of, in my own life, where we've experienced a couple of these things. One is actually my dad. He's in his early 80s. He didn't get scammed, fortunately, but he would get a call saying, "Hey, this is your grandson," essentially pretending to be his grandson. And his grandfather isn't grandpa or granddad or whatever. He's got another different foreign word for grandfather. And so when the person doesn't know that, that's kind of a dead giveaway that it's not actually his grandson. So kind of keep those things in mind. It's going to be very uncommon that your grandson actually calls you saying, "I'm in jail and I don't want to talk to my parents." But you probably all gotten those type of calls, so just ignore them. In terms of fake websites, it happened to me where I didn't get scammed because I figured it out fairly quickly, but I have MAP-free insurance. And if you do MAP-free, anyway, if you have one letter off, it brings you to almost an identical MAP-free insurance website. So and there's all sorts of those types of, you misspell it, it'll get you on the wrong website that looks virtually the same as the real one.
Yeah, so here are some other examples of scams out there, some of which you know, and we want to just highlight them. So in case you come across them, just be wary of what's coming across to you. Government business impersonation. So you may get like a notice from the IRS, from Social Security, Medicare. You name the agency, they can send an email from that agency. Those are government or business impersonation scams. A lot of these agencies won't send you a text or an email. They'll send you something in writing through the post office. Tech support scams. Sometimes I go on a website and it tells me that, my laptop is hacked or compromised. And I know it's not. I know that that site is set up to scare me into clicking through. And so that's an example of a tech support scam. Investment and crypto schemes, I mentioned that earlier. They all feel the same. If it sounds too good to be true, where you're getting an amazing return on a safe asset, it likely is too good to be true. Romance relationship scams, we talked about that. The grandparent family emergency, you saw that earlier. Sounds muffled, sounds rushed, right? But someone's panicking on the other side. You're gonna feel anxious about the fact they're panicking. If you follow through, they're looking for you to send them some money. Prize lottery, charity, sweepstakes. This can be a little harder to spot sometimes, especially on the charity side. Some charity sites or organizations come across as raising money for a legitimate cause, especially after some disaster, right? That's happening. If you ever are questioning, whether or not that's a legitimate charity or not, there's a site out there called Charity Navigator where you can look up that company and see if it's legitimate. Business email compromise and account takeover. That's, if you ever worked in a company, sometimes you get emails from people you don't know. If you click on it, that application is going to try to load something on your machine and compromise your machine. Check fraud and payment systems. This is becoming a lot more common. Most checks these days, if you put them in the mail and someone gains access to that check, you may write a check to Verizon or the utility company. They can actually erase the ink on the check and then write down their name and the amount that they want to be paid with your signature on it. So that's what's called a check fraud. Identity theft and benefits, medical fraud. Sometimes they're not looking for you to send them money. They don't need to. If they have access to your information, they can go and apply for Social Security or Medicare or whatever it is, or a credit card. And with your information, they now have access to funds that generally you don't want to be spending on things like that. And finally, there's home repair and door-to-door scams. I don't know how often you've seen this. I live in Natick for a number of years. Once in a while, I get someone coming to my door saying, "I'm in the area doing some work for your neighbors, and because I'm here, I'd like to offer you a deal, right, on the work we're doing. It's more efficient for me to be here. It's going to be less expensive for you, right, if you do the work through us." Sometimes they're legitimate, but I would check.
Thanks, Alex. I'm going to go through a few of the next slides. So what are some various financial abuse scenarios? And a lot of ways that people do this is typically they would have to have you sign something. It's often someone you trust and care about, so they take advantage of your love or care for them. So things like emptying bank accounts, retitling assets, taking loans. And again, that could just be, give me some cash I'm in trouble, I need a loan. It could be where you want a loan from a bank. There you would usually need to sign something. Selling property under market value. Again, you can't really do that unless you sign something, but again, that's something to watch out for. Changing beneficiaries, which would basically, if something happened to you, it would go to that person instead of who you really intended it to. Again, typically to change a beneficiary, you'd have to sign something. Social isolation, along with blocked access to your statements or your advisors. Always have access to your statements, so you're not relying on someone else to tell you what's in there. You want to be able to have access to them and see them. Using payment systems like Zelle, Venmo to send cash and wire information for payments. Gifts or loans, help with the bills. There's also caregiver, payroll fraud, and billing schemes. Home contractor, handyman abuse has sort of been mentioned, but again, if there's someone working in your house, you want to just kind of keep an eye on what they're doing, how they're billing you. Theft of cards, checks, and your identity. Again, just unfortunately, sometimes loved ones, will go through your purse and take some cards or checks, so just be careful of that. And then taking over accounts, whether they're investment accounts or bank accounts. So this is how a financial fraud unfolds. Some of it's already been touched on, but you'll get an email, you'll get a text, you'll get a phone call. How many people here, with a raise of hands, have gotten a random text, knows no name, just a phone number? Hi, how are you? Do not reply. All right, so yes, they're just trying to get you to engage with them, build a connection with you. It would be typically very friendly at first, nothing urgent, and then by the fifth or sixth one, oh, hey, I need some money. So look out for that. They are basically trying to create a connection with you, get you to engage. They want to use, the motivation is from you, getting you to be afraid of something, hard to believe opportunity, your love for someone else, or compassion for a cause. And what are they looking for? They're essentially looking for your information, access to your accounts, want you to send money to them, purchase gift cards. You've probably heard of that. That's been in the news a lot. Getting you to send gift cards to them through the mail, and then you signing over documents. So what are some of the ways to prevent some of these things happening to you? If it's coming through an electronic device on your phone or on the computer, just don't click on it. You can check for potential scams using a free scan detector from Norton. The full website's here. You guys can get a copy of this presentation to be able to find this. Don't share personal information on social media. I know that's hard to do. A lot of people use Facebook and other social media sites, but just try not to use full family names. Definitely don't put up any really significant personal information on there. Always verify, call the source of the inquiry. So as again, back to the grandson example, if he's calling you, just hang up, call your grandson. Your information is probably in his phone. Call his parents, even though the person says, don't call my parents, I'll be in trouble. So if it's from a company or your bank, just, okay, thanks, I will call you back. Go get a statement from your bank. There'll be a phone number on there. So just call the actual source. Don't rely on whoever's texting you or emailing you. You want to use, and don't act on any urgent requests. So that's almost a giveaway right there. If it's, hey, I need this done like right now. So that's almost a dead giveaway already that it's a scam. Consult a trusted family member first, or even contact authorities if you really have no one else to contact. You want to use multi-factor authentication. Ideally, that's a second factor. It's a combination of your password, and then you'll get a text message with a code from as soon as you request it to log in. So it's called multi-factor authentication. And then if you feel that you've been compromised, contact your bank or credit card company as soon as you can. So usually anything that happens within 24 hours, you can typically get it reversed, whether it's the bank or a credit card company. After 48 hours, it becomes harder, especially it's from your bank account. Any questions so far? Yep. Mm.
Say just a little more detail as to which you should.
Sure. If you see something on your bank account, call them right away. They can put a freeze on your account. So it depends where the source is. If you see a fraudulent bank charge, $10,000 for who knows what, call the credit card company from the back of your, not from an email, but from the back of your credit card. Call the credit card company. Police is well, you wouldn't call 911 for that. It would probably find their regular phone number. If you're not really, if you want to probably file a report, a crime report. But yeah, call the main number for your local police station in that case.
There's always these advertisements about speaking the title to your house. Can you comment on that?
I can't say like I'm 100% expert on that. It is it's not that common to do that. I know you've probably read about things like that in the news. And oftentimes it happens if there's a lien on your house. So there are legitimate ways to, if a town has a lien on your house, you have a long time period for it to happen, 6 months or even a year, so they can actually do something to your house in terms of putting a lien on it. So they have auctions for things like that. But I don't know quite how they do it, and it's not that easy. So it's not super common. When you read about it, you may think it's more common than it is, but yeah, just outright sealing someone's house is pretty difficult to do. Yeah.
If we have your email, just put on next to your email the issue of title, and we'll find out some more information. We'll send that to you. But it does happen, and it can be a little scary when this happens. But there are different scenarios, as Gary mentioned, around how it could happen. Some of which I think it depends on your residency. They can go to a town and contest certain things. So we'll identify the different use cases and then outline, what the general preventative or management measures are.
Another third party, they will act on it.
Yeah, Galvin in our state is pretty good compared to a lot of other states. He's very active in a lot of things.
I put it in junk and is that okay? Or is my putting it into junk, does that count as having opened it?
Yeah, usually when you, that's a great question. So there are usually a couple of methods to get someone to stop sending you stuff. The best method is what you've outlined, which is to put the item into junk or mark using your phone, your email, mark that as junk, and then just delete it. What you don't want to do is actually type in the word stop or unsubscribe. Sometimes the action of doing that is just going to generate even more because they know that it's a real account. Yeah. Great question. Any other questions?
Yeah, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for more questions as well. So these are a few more advanced preventative measures. You can set up a credit freeze with the major credit monitoring services. That way no one can open up anything to do with credit in your name. They'll have to contact you first to get approval. Don't set up mobile applications that allow you to send funds or pay for purchases through the phone. I know that's kind of a convenient way to pay for things. Do this at the counter, but it exposes you a little bit more. Consider assigning a limited power of attorney to a trusted person to monitor your credit card and banking transactions. You have a second set of eyeballs on what's going on. You can set up separate accounts for paying bills versus your remaining funds. So you would keep balances for bill payments a little bit smaller than your main pot of money at the bank, for example. If you can afford to hire a bill paying manager, you can do that. One example is the American Association of Daily Money Managers. Consider hiring a person to help you track your expenditures and your accounts. I know a couple of people that actually do that as well, if you ever want a referral. Consult a trusted and experienced person to help you with big purchases. You can purchase an online data cleaning tool from Optory. And then consider subscribing to an identity theft or fraud alerting tool from LifeLock and Aura. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation. You guys have any additional questions?
Hi. I'm just wondering, helping us, because it's so out there, it doesn't seem like there's any.
There are none. In fact, what's happening is our federal government is trying to preempt states' rights around some of the AI regulations. So some of that is actually, you may see that in the news sometimes where, the AI companies don't want any restrictions, right? They want to be able to go and scan as much data as they can, because that's how it learns, that's how it gets better. The more data it has, the better the model becomes. But the less sort of regulations have to go through, it costs them less money to test stuff and get it on the market. Some companies are better than others, but none of it's great. I would say, Twitter or X, the AI behind that, the name is Grok. That tends to be on the less regulated end of the spectrum. Some AIs, you can go in there and you can actually generate pornography and all kinds of unsavory stuff. But to your point, there is very little regulation on AI today.
I mean, I even saw it with FaceTime as a way to in.
No, unfortunately, it's hard, and this is why you have to think about your defensive mechanism. Set up layers, right, and just be wary of certain practices that make you more prone to getting scammed, right? So we talk about don't click through, right? Don't even with phone calls now, I'm very careful about not picking up the phone and saying, "Hi, this is Alex," right? Because I don't want someone to record my voice and recognize that the next time, right, if they record my voice and they have access to my daughter's phone number, they can now, call them and sound like me, right? So it's unfortunate that we're getting less trusting of the technologies and the things that we come across, but that's my defensive mechanism for how I protect my information.
Should you ever give anyone your social security?
No. And if they ask for it, sometimes I tell them, I said, if I give you my information, you store it and your system gets compromised, now my data's out there. Why do you need this? Generally, the only people who needs the information are, the hospitals, government agencies. In those instances, try to do that in person if you could. There's less risk doing it that way.
Will a credit card company ask for your social security number if you want to take out a new Visa or a Master?
Yes, they will.
Yeah. You need it for if you're going to open up a bank account, if you're going to open an account with a financial advisor, then we need your social security number. You just can't open an account without it.
Yeah.
So when you say, should you not give it to anybody, there's some people, if you want to open a bank account, an IRA, whatever, you need to give them your social security number. But you should be able to trust those people. You're going to a branch, you're going to your financial advisor's office, that's, is a legitimate company, right? So you don't have to really be concerned there. And if you want to work with them, you have to. But those are the kind of the main scenarios where you would have to provide it.
But with that, I would say be careful, right? It's one thing when, I'm working with Gary from AG Edwards and, we established a relationship, and as part of the account opening process, he's asking for my credit card number. There's another thing when, I see this advertisement for a 0% interest rate for 12 months, right? Roll over your transaction, and then thereafter you're gonna get an 8% interest rate on anything you purchase, right? For some financial services company I never heard of before, I don't want to turn over my credit card information, even if they're real, right? So just be careful.
Oh, and the other thing too is, don't, even like with our firm, we don't want you to email it to us. We have like a secure portal that's that's highly secure and regulated to send that information. Best way is just call over the phone. When you know me, or you know that person, and don't send personal information via email, because email can be hacked.
Right.
So use a secure method if you need to
So,
send it.
if I'm correctly, up to now, there is no any help if you get caught into AI scam by using your voice. So if you get caught in something like that, there is nothing, nobody to defend you. You don't have nothing to prove that it's not you.
There's nothing there, and one of the things that my family has done, Gary mentioned how his was it your son and grandfather, like they have a he calls his grandfather by a special name. That's almost like a safe word, right? And so my family established a safe word that if I'm not sure and I'm talking to my kid, and sometimes it could be like, hey dad, I lost my phone, I'm calling from so and so's phone, I'm in jail, I got caught in this situation, can you please send some money so I can get bailed out, right? I don't know, that's not my daughter's phone, sounds like her. In that situation, I'll ask her, hey Ava, what's the safe word, right? If they can recite the safe word, then I'm more likely to trust that. So again, think about ways to work around the issue. I assume that these companies have my data. And in fact, if you, I went through and updated my Verizon phone about 3 years ago because I was switching from AT&T to Verizon. I had to go through a application process, right? And one of the questions it asked me was, in 2012, which of the following cars did you own? Right? And I was like, wow, 2012, that's a long time ago. And, that's 2 or 3 cars ago. You have that information about me. So they have so much data about you. Some of it is for a legitimate reason, but if they have it, chances are the scammer may have it as well.
About someone telling me that it's going to be free. And you started your presentation by saying my care community is free.
Yep.
How do you get paid? What kind of services do you provide?
Sure. I like how you're thinking, so don't trust, right? So my care community, we don't charge a fee. The way that we make money is I work with people like Gary. When they join our platform, we charge them, we'll be pretty open, $30 to set up their information on our platform. And then for every lead that we send them, we charge them $30. It's the same fee that we charge every company that joins our platform, so we don't discriminate or be selective about one company versus another. We recently signed on our first employer organization to deliver senior care advisory as an employee benefit. We're in the process of signing our second company. So we're small, we're slowly making money, and our goal is to make enough where we can keep our lights on, but we're not looking at this as an opportunity to be the next, rich opportunity to cash out. So we're a bit more mission oriented.
And you don't want my social security number?
I do not need your social security. I would take a gift card. No, I'm just kidding.
And there's more questions. I want to chime in one other tip. So in my firm, and most financial firms do this one, is they have many financial firms have what they call a trusted contact. So what a trusted contact is, if many of you probably work with a financial advisor, a trusted contact is someone, if the advisor can't reach you or they suspect some kind of scams going on, this is who they would call to just make sure if you're okay, like say I can't reach you for 2 or 3 days and I need to, and I would call a trusted contact, say, hey, I can't reach you. Is everything okay? Or if I do suspect a scam, I can call the other person. They don't have access to your account. It's strictly someone that I can contact in case I'm concerned about something. So look into that with your own financial advisor just to make sure that you have a trusted contact on your account.
There's a question over there.
This is very helpful for our home protection. However,
No. So I think the comment is, it'd be great if we have some, our government can be that protective services, or can go after these criminals. The reality is there's so much money for scammers to make. There are two challenges, right? One is technology moves so fast and it's so prevalent that it's easy for them to get to everybody in this room, including Gary and myself. And the government can't protect all of us at the same time. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is a lot of these cases, sometimes the seniors don't report them, right? You get scammed out of a few $1,000s, you're embarrassed by it. You don't want people to know. But it certainly eats into your savings and the asset that you work pretty hard to save for. And so it doesn't always get reported unless it's a very significant amount. And so, I remember, when I went through a certain, where my account got compromised, of all things, someone bought 2 Verizon phones, brand new ones, top of the line, and Verizon sent me a bill. And I had to call them a few times and said, hey, I didn't buy these phones. And then, we went back and forth, and I finally called. They said, you need to file a police report. And I did. Send them to police report, and the police came and said, unfortunately, we can't do anything for you, right? Even though that person was still using the phone, it has a phone number, they can trace it, they're limited by what they can do as well. So hopefully Verizon in that situation, they wrote off the amount. It's up to them to work with the authorities to go after, someone who basically stole from them. Yep. Wow, that's good to know. I actually, got a car from Enterprise, but it wasn't that devious. It was something as simple as the fast lane transponder. If you open it up, supposedly they charge their transponder. I actually took mine from my car and used it, and I got a bill from them. And then afterward, I said, hey, am I getting double billed? And I can send you my statement to show that I pay for it during these times. They reduced the charges, but still charged me half the amount. I was so tired of them. I said, I don't want to spend hours chasing you for $20-some. But that's another example of a scam, right? There was a comment back there.
Just to mention, there are software packages you can get, such as on your computer or your iPhone, which will ferret out some of these attacks. The best advice, though, is if you don't
Yep.
recognize the address, don't click on it. There's also something on, at least on challenge, like if you're not in my home directory, who are you, what do you want?
Yep.
The downside is you get a lot of people that aren't in your phone. So it's semi-protection.
Yeah, and I think, where you see them, like, play around with the tool and see how well you like them. Sometimes they work, but sometimes it can be a bit of a pain because it affects other people, legitimate transactions you want to come through.
If to the group that passed along a story that happened to me just a couple of weeks ago, victims of this scam, but it can happen to anybody here. I got a text message from the state of Massachusetts, targeting motor vehicles that I had repaid parking ticket for $6.90. I'm good. I know $1 to $5, $7. So I foolishly paid the thing with my credit card. So then I called Visa. But the hard thing is that once it got that far, they gotta replace it. There's no damage. So in the meantime, we got on the state website, R&B, and it said, do not fall for this scam, which because they had their logo and it looked user friendly and it appeals to our better nature of cleaning up. I could have just ignored the charge, right? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you have no money into it, you're only responsible.
No, I think those are good points. And, the way that I would describe scammers or hackers, they come in all forms and sophistication, right? And some, if it's almost like a scammer business enterprise, likely they're very sophisticated, right? They bought that data. They have a lot of tools. To your point, they don't even need to call you for that information. They have it already. The part about not giving out your information, sometimes you're dealing with sort of the next level down where they don't have the same access and they're not as sophisticated. My suggestion there is don't make it worse by giving out the information. Your point is valid. Like, don't link account, which is why we said one strategy. So a lot of this is, I'm the same way you are. I assume that my data is out there, and in fact, I know. I can go on a website today, and you can find out how old I am, where I live, where my relatives are, my phone number, all those things. It's on the web, right? And there are tools like Optory that we called out earlier that will help you wipe all that data from the web. But chances are someone has it already, right? I'm just preventing, the expansion or the availability of that data, but someone has it already. So going back to our slide around preventive measures, 1 second.
The check washing front, a lot of banks are getting smarter. I wrote a check to my son-in-law, picked up some stuff in Wellesley.
I think those are good points. Yeah, exactly. That's how you should manage your, the prevent your, check washing capabilities. And again, going back to the thought about, some banks verify, not all of them do. They don't all have the same technology, the same process. I actually had a business account with a bank in the Metro West a couple of years ago. I discovered that someone actually withdrew money from my account through ACH. And I was surprised. I was like, wow, you can do that in a business account? It turns out that if someone has your routing number and your bank account number, they can make an ACH request to pull funds. And there's nothing stopping them from doing that unless you notice it and tell the bank after the fact. So that's how you learn a lot about your bank's process and sophistication when things happen. And, one of the things that we recommend often is check your accounts, right? If you have credit cards, see, what transactions have been made to your credit card. Your banks, check to make sure occasionally, like, hey, what withdrawals came out of my account? If you use a debit card, be very careful. While debit cards are convenient, I find that they're actually less protected than credit cards.
Point about debit card. Most debit cards you can use as a
Yeah.
so you should never use it as a debit card. Putting in the code that could be credit. Use it as a credit card, like using a credit card. You know, my bank is so aggressive in checking. I wrote a check to my bank to pay my credit card that I have at the bank, and my bank sent me a message, did you write this check? That was me writing a check to them. And still, but if you don't respond yes,
Yeah.
they won't honor the check, so you have to
Yeah.
respond.
Did you give an example of people who use your service? What's the sort of situation they find
Yeah, so so it's my care community. We've helped different families with different needs. Some of the more recent ones is finding home caregivers. A lot of times, I'm actually doing a presentation on this, how most people, most families are not prepared for dealing with caregiving. I was one of those individuals where my preparation was actually my mom getting discharged from a hospital. Um, you never think about it. And then when the situation came up, I realized, I got three recommendations from the discharge nurse from the hospital. I didn't know what I needed to ask for. I didn't know how they were going to charge. I didn't know how much money we should be budgeting for care support and all those things. And so that's one example of how we help a family, is just walking them through how to purchase home care. And we tell them, this is how much it typically costs. Here are your options. And here's how you should negotiate with your service providers when you do talk to them. Different companies have different preferences. Just like buying a car, there's nuances there. We help families look for senior living arrangements. We actually help a family figure out how they pay for senior care. It turns out that the family thought they did the right thing. 84-year-old mother, starting to get frail, broke her hips, getting discharged from the hospital, and the son's noticing that the mother is falling more and more often. So he's recognizing that mom may need home care support soon. And so as they're going through the option, it turns out that mom, before she retired, made the decision to retire at the age of 70 to maximize her Social Security income. Between that and a small pension that she was getting, so mom has no assets. Mom is living on Social Security and the small pension. She's $31 over Mass Health's eligibility requirements. If she was making $31 less, she would get subsidized home care support and access to certain assisted living facilities on a discounted basis. So these are things that we walk through and just help them figure out how to navigate those situations. In that situation, we're going to go through the normal application process to see if we can get through it. It may be that the son may have to spend some money for an estate planning lawyer who specializes in Medicaid applications to see if we can find some medical expenses to net against what's counted to get under that qualification threshold. So these are some examples of work that we do with families.
Is that a fee service?
We don't charge to provide that advice. If they go to the lawyer to work through that, the lawyer will charge a fee. Generally, for a Medicaid application, is anywhere from $2,500 to like $5,000. It's just a lot of paperwork that Mass Health requests from you. But the thing is, if spending that money gets you eligible for a government benefit to afford that care, that's money that's well spent in that situation.
How much of that case did you get involved with versus where else is there?
We got involved early on to walk them through what their options were, and as we're going through and understanding what the situation is, we're not specialists. Just like if you have financial services question, I will refer you to Gary, right, to help you with those assessments. But in that situation, we took them to the point where we say, okay, you need to work with these individuals next. Here are some firms that you can talk to. We work with them. We know how their fees are structured. We know, they're good in these areas, and so feel free to talk to them and get some proposals from them.
Best way to answer
So this is going back to the scamming issue. So you made a mistake and you answered the phone, right? You gave out information. I would say at that point, when you realize that you shouldn't be on the phone, just hang up and stop the call. Yeah, some other thoughts?
One of those things, never say
Yeah.
because there have been scams, yes, you activated some sort of.
Yeah. Yes.
I think there's like usually a 3-second delay between the time you pick up the phone and the time they've been able to process it to talk back to you. So if someone doesn't answer you right away, hang up the phone.
Yes.
Don't wait for them to, hello, 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 don't do that.
Yeah.
Just hang up right away.
And if you feel like you've been entered into like a contract that you didn't agree to, even though you said yes to it, bring that to the attention of, the police station, or talk to, the Consumers Bureau to see if they can help. In order to be in a contract, you have to willingly agree to something. The fact that you're saying yes to it doesn't mean that you knew what you were saying yes to. We learn as we get older, right? In order to get into, to sign a power of attorney, there's a competency test. There's a willingness to agree to something that you have to have in place in order for that to be effective. So be mindful, hang up. If you do get charged, go through the process of disputing it. You do not need to pay right away. Chances are you can get someone to help you to get off of that contract. But as you said, be very careful. Don't say yes on the phone. That's actually very good advice. When I pick up the phone, sometimes I don't say anything. I wait for them to say something first, right? Or I'll just say hello and then stop there and wait.
Talk briefly about debit
Okay.
card versus credit card. If you could talk more detail about concerns about a debit card versus a credit card, savings account, and why have a debit card?
Yeah.
How to protect them from
Yeah.
credit card, you've got some protection.
I'll talk about my preference, right? I like my credit card because I get points on them. Right, I get points, I get benefits. Sometimes the credit card charges me a fee, sometimes it doesn't. But generally, I know the rewards I get with that. And I also know that because of the way credit cards are structured, that if you call them to dispute a charge, they have some very strong built-in process to figure out if that's a legitimate charge or not. In all the years where I dispute a charge, I don't remember a single time where the bank came back and said, no, you're responsible for that, right? Because I can tell them why I'm disputing that. With a debit card, because you're typing in a code, it's linked to your checking account immediately, right? Number one, you get no points for that. So there's no benefit in using that. Second, because you're typing in a code, sometimes the bank came back and say, but you authorized this. Right? The fact that you enter something that only you know, you've authorized it. So there's some gray lines there that makes it harder to dispute a transaction because of the way the card is structured. And because of that, when banks offer me the option of, do you want a debit card? I usually tell them no. Why would I want that? I just want my ATM card and I'm going to use my credit card.
I think most banks say you're only responsible for $50 of the debit card. It's discretionary. You have in fact authorized the transaction. They may say you're responsible for that.
Yeah. It depends on how much the...
Varies by bank. I don't think there's any.
There's none, and sometimes I would imagine it depends on how much the loss is, right? If you agree to thousands of dollars, they may not want to eat that loss. So,
Yeah.
they do, and then that one of the things that I didn't mention earlier. I manage my own money. I have an MBA, and I at one point thought about becoming an equity analyst. I took my CFA exam and went through that process. So generally, I get a pretty decent return managing my own money, but I know my limits, right? As I get older, And I've seen this in my parents and people I know. Your brain doesn't work the same way when you get older. There comes a point where our ability to judge, our ability to think about certain things just aren't what they used to be when we were younger. So from that standpoint, when we talk about using a trusted advisor, that's something, as I talk with financial advisors about managing my money for me, that's how I like to use them, right? It's hey, when you see a big transaction come through, I want you to challenge everything that you see, because that's what I need you for. When I'm at that age when I may not be able to tell something that looks legitimate or not, I want someone else to take a look at it and say, hey, maybe we should check this before we pay this bill, right? Or before we act on it.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. If you feel like you've been scammed a little bit, usually it's not like a one-time thing. It's like, send me $1,000, and then I need $2,000. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. Tell your loved ones what's going on so that you don't get deeper into it. I know one of my friend's aunts kind of fell into one of these things. So keep that in mind. And two, in terms of just like safety, at our firm, and I'm sure other firms as well, we have red flags that we look for. So if you normally take out, let's just say $10,000 once a year for whatever, but now you start, for expenses, Christmas gifts, and then suddenly you're asking for $10,000 every month, I'm going to question that, and just make sure that it's for legitimate reasons, that you're not being scammed somehow. So most large firms will have these kind of red flags and training for their folks to look out for. We can still be here for a little while. If you guys have our information, you know what Alex does. Me, I do not just investments, but life insurance, long-term care, legacy planning. So if either one of us can help you or someone you care about, please feel free to contact us.
Yeah, hopefully it's helpful.